Raise your hand if you've ever carved out time to go to the range. You get there, you use up a bunch of ammo, you spend a bunch of time that you carved out of your schedule, and then you leave not really feeling much more confident than when you walked in. I know that that has happened to me in the past, and after being an instructor and shooting for so many years, I have some advice for you ladies on how we can make the most of our practice. If you're brand new here, my name is Stav, and this is my channel, She Equips Herself. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. If you are not, I post a lot in my stories day to day, so you can get a behind the scenes look at more of the personal aspects of my life. And my goal here is just to create a bunch of confident and competent gun owners, specifically for you ladies out there, because I know this is a very male-dominated space. So being able to share my own experience and the things that I am learning really just brings me joy. And so that's why I'm here, and I'm so glad that you're here too. So why does practice fail sometimes? I feel like one of the number one things I've seen and have done myself in the past is going to the range and doing a bunch of repetition, shooting a bunch of rounds, pulling the trigger a bunch, and not really having a specific goal in mind or reflecting on what I'm doing. And that can be fun, and it's cool to go to the range and just shoot for fun. But if your goal is to become a more competent gun carrier, and even if you just have guns in the home for personal protection in your house and you don't carry outside the home, your goal is to be better with whatever tools you're relying on as a self-defender, whether it's to defend just yourself or to defend you and your family, your loved ones. You want to get better and more competent as someone who owns guns for self-defense, right? So not having a goal when you go to the range or something that you want to work on specifically can really hinder your practice and stop you from making the most of your range time. Another thing that can get in the way of your range time is not having good fundamentals. And I've seen this over and over with people who might be a little overconfident in the beginning, and so they go to the range and they shoot a bunch, but they've never really worked on proper grip. They've never worked on like how they want to stand, like what feels natural for their body. Maybe they saw something online and they just repeat that, even though that's not like the best stance for them or the most natural for them. And then also trigger control is huge, and we talk about that a lot on this channel. One of my husband's and my most popular video on this channel is all about handgun accuracy, and I'm actually going to link it here. If you haven't seen that yet, it's a really good one. It's from years ago, but it's still one of our most popular videos, and I think it can help you solve some accuracy issues that you might be having. But if you're not getting your trigger control correct and then you try to add skills on top of that, it's very cumulative. Like the fundamentals are very important because you're going to build other skills on top of that. Also, many times people will go to the range to practice, but they won't be practicing based on reality. Like, one thing that we see a lot is people go to the range and they shoot guns that are not their carry gun or their home defense gun. They shoot guns that are easier to shoot because maybe they want to do better, they want to look better to other people at the range, or maybe other people they're going with. So not practicing for real life, it can be something like that, or it can be not practicing from concealment. If you carry concealed day to day, but then you go to the range and you're not using concealment in your training, you're not giving yourself the best practice, because if you need to get your clothes out of the way in a self-defense situation, you've never practiced it at the range before, that's going to be a problem. And you see this also with people not practicing out of a holster. Now, some ranges don't allow these things, so please make sure you know your range's rules. Some ranges don't allow you to draw from a holster. Some ranges don't allow movement or kneeling, so make sure you're following your range's rules. And we'll talk about ways to supplement your range training at home, because sometimes you can't do everything at the range, and that's okay, as long as you're being safe and you're following their rules. And a lack of confidence and maybe a fear can also cause hesitation at the range. So I remember before I ever started shooting one-handed, the idea of that was really like scary to me. It seemed very foreign for me to even try to shoot one-handed because I'd shot so many times with both my hands. So taking one of them out of the equation caused some hesitation in me. But the more you practice these skills, you're going to gain that confidence. I also used to hesitate with certain things that I haven't tried yet in my training, but if you have someone there teaching you how to do it safely, that's going to build confidence, and it's really important when it comes to shooting. So why does it matter for us to practice properly? You could just go to the range and shoot and have a good time and hope that everything works out if you ever need to use your training, right? No, that is false. Practice matters. And there's a quote that I'm sure you've heard that says, I'm totally gonna butcher this. It's like, we don't rise to the occasion, we fall to our lowest level of training. So it's like your worst day at the range is probably what's going to come out if you ever are in a situation where you need to use your gun because of adrenaline and stress and all that. You're not going to be at your best most likely when you're in a really high stress life or death situation. So correct practice is important because you're going to build those skills, and your worst day will get better and better as you go. And I've seen this before where people have practiced wrong for years and years, and now that muscle memory is ingrained in them, and it's really hard to break a habit. For example, when my husband was teaching in-person classes, we would see this over and over where he'd have to correct someone and say, like, keep your finger off the trigger, like, don't point that. And these people have been shooting for years. And I've seen instructors do things that are unsafe because they never corrected that in their journey. And then they just build on that bad habit, and it's hard for them to not do it. So learning correctly from the get-go is very important because that's going to be something that is ingrained in your muscle memory, especially with firearms. When you're at the range and shooting, there's so much going on that is reliant on your muscle memory, so you want to build those correct skills in the very beginning with your fundamentals. The goal for training for me is like not just being familiar with a gun and knowing how a gun works, but being confident and feeling ready that I could use that gun if, God forbid, I ever had to. So now that we've discussed why it's important to practice properly, let's talk about how to fix it if you've been practicing improperly. One thing that I find really helpful is setting a clear goal for that day. So it might be, I want to work on my trigger control today, or I want to work on moving my eyes from target to target, or I want to work on my grip today. But going into the range with a specific goal, or maybe multiple goals if you have a lot of time that day and ammo, is really helpful because it gives you a focus point and something where you can actually gauge your improvement. If you're just shooting aimlessly at a target and maybe you hit the target every time, but a lot of your shots are like low left, if you went in there to practice your trigger control, you could actually improve that skill while you're there rather than just aimlessly shooting. I actually have a range drills workbook where I have progress trackers in the back, but you can just use like a notebook you have if you just want to track your progress. You can write down what goals you have and then just write down how you're doing each range day. Like, this day I did this and this is what I need to work on, so that you can actually see where you need to improve, and you can also be encouraged by how you've already improved. Another thing that's important, which we kind of talked about earlier, is fixing your fundamentals. If you have trouble with grip or you have trouble with trigger control, I have videos on here that might help, but you could also seek out an instructor and get help with it one-on-one. That's always helpful because that person can actually see what you're doing while you're shooting and help you correct it. And many people try to rush in the beginning, like they want to get a really fast draw, but the key is doing it slowly at first, and as you get that muscle memory, your speed will increase and you'll be smooth and fast. You don't just want to be fast, you want to be smooth and fast, and that comes with slowing down at first, taking your time, and letting that speed come with the repetition. So let's talk about reality and simulating realistic situations. Like I said before, you can't always do things at the range that will get you proper training for real life situations. But there are things you can do at home. You can do dry fire with your actual gun, which means you have no live rounds near you anywhere, because when you're doing dry fire practice, there's zero room for error. You have to make sure your gun is totally empty, no live rounds near you at all, and you're being super safe. Besides that, there are things like the Mantis training systems, which I've reviewed for you guys on my channel. These are things that you can practice with at home. The new Mantis Titan X is a training gun. So it's not a real gun, it uses a laser, there's an app, you can track your progress, but they also have systems that you can put on your guns. So things like that make it really helpful because you can do whatever you want in your house. Like, you could do like a somersault into your bedroom and shoot from the kneeling at a target you set up in the corner. Like, there's a lot you can do in your own home with dry fire and training systems like the Mantis that you might not be able to do at the range. You can do like turn the lights off and use the flashlight on your gun, or use a flashlight in your hand and practice low light training. There's a lot you can do at home. So training at home is a really great way to supplement your live fire training at the range. Also, after you leave the range, do a little personal reflection. Like, how did I do? What did I feel confident in, and what do I think I need to improve on? And then that's where those goal trackers really help as well. And then seek feedback. Like, ask for help if you need it. Ask an instructor. Take a class in whatever you want to improve. Like you want to improve your self-defense shooting skills, take a class, find an instructor, find a friend you know who you admire as a shooter and they're very safe and comfortable and they can teach you, and ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. We are here to help one another, right? So my encouragement to you this week is to pick one of these tips and practice deliberately. Let's make our training sessions as beneficial to us as possible. Ammo's expensive. Every time you press that trigger, there goes a little bit of money out of your bank account, right? So let's make the most of our training. If you could benefit from a step-by-step approach to becoming a competent and confident gun owner, that's exactly what I teach in the Armed and Confident Academy. So I'll link my 2-step online course school below and you guys can check that out. But other than that, I'm so glad you were here. Thank you guys for joining me today. Comment down below and let me know what your biggest training challenge is, and hopefully we'll be able to help each other out in the comments. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Stay safe. Bye.